Top 10 reasons to become a Salesforce CTA. CTA forces the true enterprise-level thinking beyond features and configs, covering scale, security, data, and long-term platform strategy. You stop asking, can Salesforce do this? And you start asking, should we do this? CTA Prep pushes you to design for scale you may not personally own yet, massive data volumes, global users, regulatory constraints, and long-term growth. It assumes complexity as the default. What really changes is how you think about the trade-offs: performance versus flexibility, speed versus governance, simplicity versus extensibility. CTA teaches you that there is also no perfect solution, only conscious decisions and consequences. Security and compliance also stop becoming afterthoughts. Identity access, data residency, and auditability become foundational design elements, not boxes you check at the end. You also learn to think beyond a single Salesforce org. Real enterprises are multi-org, integration-heavy, and constantly evolving. CTA forces you to design systems, not just implementations. And finally, you start optimizing for what happens after the go-live, operability, DevOps, monitoring, and the reality that people change roles and teams turn over. CTA rewires how you think, from building solutions to designing systems that survive scale, change, and risk. Another reason CTA is worth it is because it exposes gaps you didn't even realize were there. Most senior Salesforce professionals are strong in their lane, maybe delivery, maybe integrations, maybe data, but Salesforce forces you to confront the entire system end to end. Identity is a great example. A lot of people think they understand SSO until CTA Prep forces them to explain federation flows, failure modes, and downstream impact. Same with data volumes, archiving strategies, or integration resiliency. CTA doesn't punish you for not knowing everything. It punishes you for not realizing what you don't know. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also where the real growth happens, and by the time you're deep into the prep, you're no longer guessing where your weaknesses are. They're painfully obvious, and that's actually a gift. Reason 3, it instantly increases credibility. Whether we like it or not, credibility matters, especially at senior levels. Executives, stakeholders, and even other architects don't need to slowly figure out whether you know what you're doing. The assumption's already there. That doesn't mean you stop explaining your decisions, but the conversation shifts. You're no longer defending yourself, you're advising. And that trust shows up in subtle ways: fewer second guesses, faster alignment, and more influence over platform direction. CTA doesn't make you infallible, but it changes the starting point of every serious architectural conversation. Reason number 4, it elevates the level of work you get. One of the biggest post-CTA shifts is the kind of work you get pulled into. Instead of being brought in once decisions have already been made, you're asked to help shape those decisions early. You're no longer just implementing architecture, you are influencing it. You get asked questions like, what should our platform strategy be? What's the risk if we do this, instead of just, can Salesforce support this requirement? That shift alone can completely change your day-to-day work and your long-term trajectory. CTA moves you upstream, closer to strategy and farther from rework. Reason 5, it's career insurance in volatile markets. Markets change, roles disappear, technologies shift. The reason CTA holds value is because it's not tied to a single product feature or implementation pattern. It's about decision-making under complexity. The skills you develop, system design, risk mitigation, integration strategy, governance, transfer across industries and even beyond Salesforce. When budgets tighten, organizations still need people who can reduce risk and prevent expensive mistakes. CTA isn't recession-proof, but it's one of the most resilient skill sets you can build in this ecosystem. Reason number 6, it unlocks premium compensation and leverage. CTA doesn't guarantee higher pay, but it absolutely changes leverage. It opens doors to roles that are otherwise hard to access: enterprise architect positions, advisory work, architecture-only consulting, and executive-facing engagements. Even when the title isn't explicitly required, it strengthens your negotiating position. You're not just another senior resource, you're a vetted architect. And sometimes the biggest benefit isn't salary, it's optionality, the ability to choose which work you take and how you engage. Reason number 7, it trains you to perform under pressure. The CTA Review Board isn't about memorization, it's about how you think under pressure. You're given limited time, incomplete information, and high expectations, just like real executive environments. CTA teaches you to prioritize what matters, articulate trade-offs clearly, and stay composed when challenged. That skill translates directly to real-world architecture reviews, steering committees, and high-stake clients' conversations. Passing the review board means you've proven that you can think clearly when it actually counts. Reason 8. You join a small, high-signal community. There are only a few hundred CTAs worldwide, and that matters. It's a small, high-trust, high-signal community where people actually help each other. There's no fluff, no posturing, just shared experience and mutual respect. Whether it's mentorship, referrals, or just honest advice, that network becomes a long-term asset. Very few certifications give you both a credential and a meaningful peer group. CTA does. Reason number 9. It sharpens how you communicate complexity. Great architecture is useless if no one understands it. CTA forces you to explain complex systems clearly to technical and non-technical audiences alike. You learn how to use diagrams intentionally, structure narratives, and connect technical decisions to business outcomes. That ability to turn complexity into clarity is one of the most valuable skills you can develop, and it pays off far beyond Salesforce. Reason number 10. It's a career-defining professional win. CTA is hard, and that's the point. It requires sustained effort, discipline, and the willingness to be uncomfortable for a long time. Many people start, few finish. Well, once you pass, it's permanent. No renewals, no expirations. It's a professional milestone that stays with you regardless of job, company, or market conditions. CTA isn't about ego. It's about proving to yourself more than anyone else that you can operate at the highest levels of this ecosystem. Why CTA might not be the right fit for you. Now, I want to close with something important because CTA is not for everyone. And that doesn't mean that you're not talented. It just means that this path may not align with how you want to work. If you love hands-on delivery and building things more than debating trade-offs, CTA might feel frustrating. Architecture at this level involves a lot of saying no, slowing things down, and choosing the least wrong option, not the most elegant one. If you're looking for a quick credential or a guaranteed raise, CTA is probably the wrong move. This is a long, demanding process with no shortcuts, no promises. CTA also requires significant time investment, often nights, weekends, and sustained focus over months or years. If that doesn't fit your life right now, that's a perfectly valid reason to pause or walk away. And finally, if you're pursuing CTA for the title alone, you will likely burn out. The people who succeed are the ones who care more about the skill set than the letters. CTA isn't a requirement, it's an option. But if you're drawn to complex systems, high-stakes decisions, and being accountable for long-term outcomes, then it might be exactly the challenge you're looking for. CTA isn't about becoming more important, it's about becoming more responsible for the decisions you make.